Welcome back everybody, my name's Nick930 and this is my final review for Bethesda's latest Fallout experience, Fallout 76. Fallout 76, unlike previous entries to the franchise, is an open-world multiplayer adventure that utilizes most of the mechanics introduced in Fallout 4. Players can either go in alone or group up with friends as they explore the vast wilderness of a post-apocalyptic West Virginia countryside. But unfortunately, like most multiplayer-focused video games, the game's story seems to suffer significantly from this decision, something that many fans of the Fallout series may find to be a deal-breaker. In Fallout 76, you play as a random member of Vault 76, only 25 years after the Great War that has left the world an apocalyptic wasteland. Rather than following a chain of events and speaking to various characters, you'll find yourself building a character from inside the Vault and setting out into the world on what the Vault calls Reclamation Day, in hopes that the inhabitants of the Vault will be able to tame the wasteland and bring the region back into order. Most of the game's story revolves around discovery and exploration, with new quests being added by tuning into radio stations, finding old scribbled notes in ruins, or searching through emails on abandoned computer terminals. The world is filled with nice environmental storytelling, well-made voice recordings, and interesting messages left behind by deceased survivors. But it also feels remarkably dead and lonely at the same time. There's no human NPCs in the world to speak to like a typical Fallout game, which also means there's no speech opportunities throughout the experience, one of Fallout's hallmark features. There's various robotic vendors and even a super mutant traveling salesman, but there's no real interaction with them either outside of accessing their store. According to Bethesda, the surviving humans in this wasteland are made up entirely of the online player base. And they hope that they created a sandbox where things like shops and communities will begin to materialize naturally. And this is technically possible thanks to the ability to create structures and trade, but it's definitely asking a lot of an online community that will more often shoot you on sight and troll you whenever possible. It's a real shame seeing a game with such cherished lore and role-playing stories be stripped of everything that makes it special, but there's still plenty of fun to be had regardless. Fallout 76 still plays just like any other Fallout game. If you've played Fallout 4, then everything about this game should feel immediately familiar, from the control scheme, the movement, the inventory, and even the combat. However, in order to account for the multiplayer-focused gameplay, quite a few minor changes had to be made, some of which seem a bit unnecessary. First, let's talk about the game's customization options. Fallout 76 allows players to fully customize their character's appearance, their clothing, weapons, armor, and even build their own home base in any uninhabited area on the map. But a lot of the options are locked until the player can randomly come across various plans and recipes hidden in the game world. There's no specific trail to follow in order to unlock certain items. You're instead forced to grind through the open world in hopes that you'll eventually find all the plans that you want to craft your weapons to your liking. It's a frustrating process that feels unnecessarily tedious and hurts the flow of the experience. What's more, a lot of the customization is limited by the collection of rare resources. Items like screws, aluminum, and adhesive are more prevalent in item recipes, making them a difficult resource to keep in stock, which can make basic functions like weapon repairs or ammo creation a more difficult process. Other basic functionalities available in Fallout 4 have also been removed, like the ability to rename items for better organization, or even store them into separate containers at your home base. The attachments themselves are more or less the same, requiring certain XP ranks and perks to build higher-end attachments, and requiring you to discover plans to unlock more to choose from. The only thing that has changed significantly is the settlement building system. Fallout 76 removes the requirement to build in settlement areas, and now allows you to build in any uninhabited piece of land. The actual building space itself is smaller overall, but the freedom this grants is a nice improvement. You can pick up your entire camp and move it anywhere else in the game world, removing the tedious back and forth of previous games and keeping you closer to the action at all times. You can build most of the same structures, but again are limited by the randomly rewarded plans you'll earn as you play. The building mechanics are generally user-friendly, but I very often ran into issues with object placement, where errors about floating objects would prevent me from placing things like my preset buildings. I also can't stand how your storage space is limited to only 400 pounds. That means that you can't hoard ammunition, weapons, or even things like cool clothing. I found that item management overall was significantly more frustrating, as not only are you stuck trying to determine which items to scrap and throw away, but you're also now stuck waiting for your cooperative teammates to go through the same lengthy process. Moving on, we have the progression system. Fallout's unique, special role-playing game system returns, but with some minor tweaks to how perks function. After reaching the next XP level, you're given the option to increase one of your special stats, giving you a permanent boost to things like strength, charisma, or intelligence. This also allows you to equip more perk cards, which are randomly rewarded to the player rather than being part of a distinct list to choose from. Obtaining duplicate cards allows you to combine and create more powerful versions of those cards, and higher skill points will allow you to equip more of those more powerful cards. If you're playing in a group, your friends can also share some of their perks with the team, assuming that they also have a high enough charisma. It's a pretty solid system, outside of the random nature of the perks, and I like the whole baseball card aesthetic. Next, we had the combat mechanics. If you've played Fallout 4, then you should already know exactly how the combat functions. For the most part, it's pretty fluid, but there are a lot of annoying animations that can make encounters feel cumbersome. But what's more annoying this time around is the added latency caused by the inclusion of online play. This latency results in bullets not affecting enemies right away, which can become increasingly more annoying in encounters with large groups of enemies. Enemies also take a lot more to kill, likely to encourage more cooperative gameplay. So if you were hoping to run through this game solo, you'll likely struggle to get very far. One of Fallout's standout features has been its VATS system, which allows players to slow down time and aim at individual body parts with a percentage indicating the chances of landing a successful hit. This unique action role-playing mechanic is still present in Fallout 76, but no longer slows down time, making it more of an aimbot option that can be used during combat whenever you have enough action points. This seems to function nicely enough, and I'm glad they found a way to implement the feature, but I'll miss the slow motion epic kill cams, which obviously wouldn't make sense in a multiplayer game. I think one of the biggest problems with Fallout 76 isn't that it includes a multiplayer component, but more that it includes a player versus player component. This idea that the world is not only populated by you and your friends, but also some random online players is the fundamental reason why there are so many issues with Fallout 76's design. And it's not like the compromises were worth it either. There's nothing generally exciting about the PvP offered in this game. It's often just an awkward gunfight with players taking chunks off each other's health bars and spamming stim packs. And the only reward for killing someone is a few extra resources that the person forgot to store. Players can also respawn close by and even on their teammates, which can result in endless skirmishes that are more often a waste of time than anything else. If you completely ignore the other players in the game, you can still sense their impact on the game world. You'll often find buildings already searched with the doors open and enemies killed. Alternatively, I also found that if you go through an area and kill all the enemies, they'll all respawn as soon as another player enters the vicinity, often screwing you over and forcing you to fight them all over again. This is especially annoying when playing with a group, as players who regroup a minute late cause a ton of enemies to respawn almost on top of their teammates. But one of the most annoying quirks of the multiplayer component are the nukes. While seemingly a really cool feature that gives some purpose to your adventures, the nukes really seem to ruin the experience for the other low-leveled players. If you manage to find a series of nuclear launch codes, often found on various ghouls at higher level areas, then you'll be able to access a silo and send a nuke out somewhere in the world. Everyone in that server will be notified of the impending nuke, which is an awesome event. But after that nuke falls, that area is essentially off limits for the next hour. The area requires a hazmat suit or something similar to enter, and the enemies will all be super high levels, making it near impossible to complete quests without being killed a million times. You can always search for a new server if you have a quest that you want to complete in that area, but it does seem like a slight inconvenience that likely wouldn't be a problem if the game had only been a cooperative experience. When me and my group of friends set out on quests together, killing strange new enemies and exploring new environments, Fallout 76 really shined, and was a surprisingly deep multiplayer experience. Running around with a group of 4 friends, or more if you have friends tagging along with your team, makes for a fun adventure through the wasteland, with plenty of funny moments scattered throughout. I personally still prefer the single-player exploration of a Fallout world, often leaving my companions at home in past games, but traveling with a pack of friends all wearing power armor and killing giant killer bees and super mutants is probably one of the most exciting cooperative experiences I've played all year, and like any other Fallout game, it's worth pushing through the poor design choices and annoying bugs just for that adventure. Finally, let's talk about the game's presentation. Fallout 76 isn't the prettiest game to release this year. You'll often find muddy textures, poorly implemented depth of field, and outdated animations to be distracting as you play through the game. But other effects like the nice volumetric lighting still hold up pretty well, and there's also some cool special effects like explosions and nuclear blasts to enjoy. Performance, however, needs to be fixed. On consoles, the game barely manages to hold a locked 30 FPS, and on PC, the game is stuck at 60 FPS, with modifications to unlock it only resulting in broken animations. Even with a 2080 Ti, the game struggles to maintain that locked 60 FPS, and it just feels really sluggish. Other issues include some rare crashing, frequent visual bugs, and several annoying quest-related bugs that can halt your progress entirely. If Bethesda does manage to iron out these issues early, then Fallout 76 could be a solid experience. But considering the state of past Fallout games right now, I wouldn't be surprised if many of these issues continue to persist for years to come. Overall, Fallout 76 is not a bad game. There's a lot of fun to be had, especially if you have a group of friends looking for a deep cooperative experience. Unlike most multiplayer games that promise content in the future, Fallout 76 seems to have most, if not everything, in place already, with a ton of locations to explore, a ton of unique enemies to fight, high-end bosses, quests, and even the ability to completely obliterate a section of the map with your own nuke. I'm really enjoying my time with Fallout 76, despite its glaring issues, and I'm really looking forward to any future content Bethesda has planned next. Anyway, those are just a few of my thoughts on Fallout 76. What do you guys think of this game? Let me know in the comments section. Also, if you're interested in learning more about Fallout, check out my full retrospective on the entire Fallout franchise, linked at the end of this video. I also wanted to give a special shout out to both Angry Mango and James Walter for their contributions to my Patreon. Your support is really appreciated. If you'd like to become a Patreon, I've provided a link in the description. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this posted every week.